It's dark. It's dark. Dennis, my friend, you're looking marvelous this evening in your white hat.
My white hat, which says something on it. Can you read it for our listeners?
It says, the chosen Ilban. No.
And the way it's spelled. Cho-zun.
Son.
Yes.
Ilbo Agons? What's this about?
Beats me, man. I've never known what it meant. I was hoping your computer skills we could get to the bottom of it. The only thing I know, it's a golf hat. So it probably stands for some, I don't know, some ancient Scottish something.
You could not be further from wrong.
Oh.
The Chosun Ilbo, which translates to Korea Daily Newspaper, is the leading daily newspaper in South Korea. It's the oldest daily newspaper in the country, with a daily circulation of over 1.8 million.
Well, I wear the South Korean newspaper name with pride all these years. Never knew it.
Yeah. So all of we apologize to our Korean listeners that Dennis's ignorance at the name of your daily newspaper that everyone knows about in Korea.
You want to piss off the South Koreans.
Exactly.
Because they're so pissed off at the North Koreans that they'll take it out on us.
Right, exactly.
He's got the bomb.
Yeah. And
the little better, he described it. Was it sexual? I'll bet it was. Was
what?
Sexual. The love letter to the little dictator.
You cut out there for a second. I'm not sure what the fuck you're talking about.
Well,
sexual letter to a little dictator?
Off or not cut on. This often happens.
Well.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway.
Just thinking back of Trump and the North Korea.
Yes, their little
relationship
love affair.
Saying South Korea will take it out on us because they're pissed off at the North, but they don't dare intervene. Of course, we're good allies with them, right? That's why they probably had a golf outing.
Right.
That's what it was. South Korean newspaper had a golf outing.
Exactly. And
bam. Where? Somewhere in America. Look that up.
Probably.
I bet you. Come on, man.
They probably have many golf outings in America. And the other thing you want me to search for is America Golf? Come on.
That's pretty broad. We could probably narrow that down.
Yeah.
How's your week been? I see you're still in your old office. So the painting and preparation is now delayed yet another week. But you put nothing in the contract to incentivize earlier on time delivery, nor, of course, penalty for late delivery.
And it's not... I don't think... The painters have been pretty good. And also, they're doing an amazing job. We're very pleased with what we see going on over there. But they painted the bedroom. It's a one-bedroom apartment. So there's like a living room, dining room area, and a bedroom. And they painted the bedroom in the color that we selected. And when the whole wall looks that color, there's a little bit of a pinkish tinge to it that is not ideal.
From the sunlight entering the room, or the...
No, it reflects a little bit more red light than we were hoping for. And my wife said, I don't want this place to be pink. So our current house is pink everywhere. Ceilings and the walls and everything you can see. And we wanted something off-white, but not pink. So anyway, they painted that, and then the guy told me that they were going to take 2 days off because they were having a ceremony for their friend who died of COVID in Brazil, and his ashes were being brought back, and their friend group was going to have a two-day party to celebrate his life or whatever. And you can't say, fuck no, get back here and work. You have to be like, okay, man, that's sorry for your loss. But on the second day that they were supposed to be off, like, he showed up and was doing some work. The work ethic is good. I told him, yo, man, this is too pink. And he said, it's the color you chose. And I said, yeah, we know that. Give me the color swatches again, and let's try again.
How much of it has he painted that you're considering redoing?
Whole room, like 3 walls. Basically.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to change your mind.
But still, now is the time to change your mind, right?
You better like it. And if you got to pay twice, then chalk it up to...
This is the time to change your mind.
Charge your full price for the second coat.
So anyway, he left us the color swatch book that has 5,005 different colors.
Yeah, I had those marked.
And we went to the off-whites, and we had been, like, at the start of the book, your whitish ones are more red, and then at the very end of the book, they're more gray and beigeish brown. And so...
through the spectrum of...
We decided that we wanted a little bit more gray, and...
Yeah, I don't blame you.
We looked at these, and there was one that I liked, and my wife thought maybe another one, but then we had a phone call. I was here, my wife was on the phone and talking to the guy, and we said, look, we think we want this gray one. And that was today, and today was a local holiday in my town. Some saint of fishing Fisher dudes, and the paint stores were closed, so he couldn't buy this paint. But
he doesn't care. Did he tell you he would charge you more? Or
he said,
it's just known.
I don't know. It was never mentioned. He said, "Look, why don't I go and buy 1 kilo of this new paint that you think you want, and no, not buy the 15 kilos that we need for the whole place. Who knows what that is in gallons or whatever." But so he actually drove to another town that wasn't having a holiday and got this paint. And he also had he also had some leftover paint that was similar to the beige that we were evaluating. And he said, "Look, why don't I paint 2 squares on the wall here, one with the gray and another with the beige, and you come back and tell me tomorrow what you want."
He didn't put them right next to each other, did he? They should be on opposite walls.
They're on the same wall, and look, the beige one was super dark, and it was clear that it was too dark. And it wasn't the same thing happened when I went in there to look, and then when my wife went in there to look, she said, "Oh no, this is too dark." And that was my thought too. And only then, after looking more closely, could we even tell that there was another one, that was the grayish one. And anyway, that's the clear winner. We're going to go more gray than pink.
It's lighter gray than what you're looking at here, correct?
Yes, it's very light gray. You can barely...
This is the steel gray.
Yeah.
In a room that half the walls are windows and doors. So there's not that much wall.
But no, it's very gray, off-white gray. And so that's what we've told him. And he's going to come tomorrow and paint. And hopefully by next week we will be in there, but who knows if something goes wrong.
Yeah. So I sent you a note that I finished watching what appeared to be 4 episodes of the 100-foot wave.
Okay, I've seen 3, I think, and I'm pretty sure there are more. Did he surf the 100-foot wave? Because that's how you know it's the end.
No, first of all, that's not how it's the end, and unless there's another one coming. But the third one, in what looked to me like they showed 2 seasons. One they showed an earlier aired kind of first episode, and then it was so successful they said, you know what, let's do a 3 or more, but so far a 3-part series that kind of starts with that first one, starts over with it. And so they're similar scenes and shots, but they're not the same one, and then there's 2 more that follow. And so the third one ends when he's in Hawaii and is playing with his wife and kids, and he goes into a philosophical discussion how life is the 100-foot wave. And it is an enormous change for him and an amazing flight for him at the age of what probably would be 54, realized that riding these little waves in Hawaii, little for him, and teaching his son, who now is old enough to surf, and is up and riding the board at, I don't know, 6 maybe, 5 or 6.
Sure. One would be.
Yeah. And he waxes poetic on just what the 100-foot wave really is. So in one sense, I suppose that what you say is right, but not in the literal sense.
Okay. So there are 6 episodes.
6.
And the original air dates started in July 18th, 2021, and the 6th one went to August 22nd. So that was this week. So there's no way you've seen them all, nor I.
In that case, the conclusion of the 3rd episode is a killer.
Did you make it to when in Portugal they succeeded in getting all the news coverage?
Oh, yeah, it's way beyond that. That was
okay.
The 2nd episode.
Yeah, all right.
The 3rd episode, he's grounded and he's spotting from the cliff.
Right.
He can't surf at the age of 52. He had a broken foot. He's smart. He keeps he keeps tinkering and thinkering about how there's a small part of him.
Tinkering and thinkering.
Yes,
love it.
15% of him that wanted to do it. And after it's all over, he says, I should have done it. And then he thinks about it and he says, at least there's a part. But anyway, if there's more after, are you familiar with the one I'm talking about then? Apparently not.
I don't recall. This was a
you would recall this. It's dynamite ending. This it wouldn't be like, no, it didn't phase you. That's just not.
Okay, maybe I wiped out. So, Dennis.
Yeah. Yes.
What is your 100-foot wave? What is your
What is my 100-foot wave?
Yeah. What's
an interesting question.
The goal that you've.
It's an interesting question. First of all,
yes,
it's not 100-foot. It's only 50.
You got to aim low.
I get to tee off from the goal tees. Oh no, 100-foot wave, but I've already got 50-foot credit.
Okay.
It's like the closer tees.
Okay.
I want to build a garage.
Okay.
That's not 100-foot wave.
You need a 100-foot hinge.
So, did you get the unfathomable pictures of the hinge.
I got the pictures. They were not worth sharing.
No.
But I understood it looks more like a zipper point.
Yeah,
because it's
but
interlocking.
not enough for anyone else to care to see it. And I thought how stupidly I hadn't taken a picture of it before the paint was on, before it was up.
Right.
Or after it was up on the inside, right, before it was painted.
Right.
But I painted the rest of that shed. I painted the brown and the gray. I built a little alley between the two buildings for my ladder. I don't want to say that I maybe go over the top a little bit, but when I put in a 6-inch gravel base between the two buildings, so you walk out on this, there's this beautiful door, and you walk through the door, and there's about 3 feet of space between the buildings. And it's just big enough to hang a ladder and turn sideways comfortably and walk by it. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to the back of the house, is a 26-inch space. But on the ground, between these 3 outbuildings, my neighbors where the alley is, and then behind there, the neighbors, all the water comes off the roofs into this gully. And it sprays and splashes up on the wood shingles or on the wooden boards of all of the buildings. And consequently, after literally, 110 years of mud splashing on wood, especially all the wood rotted down to through a whole inch of wood. So
especially when you get a gully washer.
Yeah. That's a term, new term for you. That's great.
When you learn a new term, you got to try and use it.
You got to use it repeatedly.
Or it goes away.
You don't use it, you lose it, so to speak. But so I put my big long ladder that I use maybe twice a year hanging on the wall. I built a little roof over the top of it so it doesn't get all the
your
debris
little ladder has a ladder roof.
Yeah,
that's cute.
Then I'm
going to hang this on the wall. Let me put a little tiny roof over it. That's nice.
6 to 8 inches of gravel on the bottom so that there's no more splashing mud and the water drains.
Does the roof have a gutter?
No, alleyway. It's not a gutter. Gutter is what you're.
No, the roof over your ladder.
Oh no, it's not a gutter. It's a small extension of the roof.
Okay.
A gutter.
A ladder roof.
I didn't have what I needed to build a gutter, meaning a gutter. But what I did have was much short treated lumber and about a 26-inch sheath of outdoor plastic sheathing for siding on a house that was supported by the wooden braces. So there's the pitch of the roof, and then there's a fascia board. Then underneath there is the soffit, and the soffit is curved.
Soffit.
So I just nailed a board to that angled, not curved, but angled soffit board and created another roof. So it's what you might call a 2-step roof. I'll send you pictures. You look.
This vocabulary is over my head like a good roof.
It cost me $16 to build it. So that gutters would have cost me in the neighborhood of $100 probably.
Good time to remind people to go to patreon.com/happyhour. Buy Dennis a gutter.
I get a lot of joy out of reusing materials that other people throw away.
You do.
The repurposing is actually purposing. And in many cases, repurposing. If I did it and it's already been
repurposing is your
and
purpose.
I'm pushing it through. I didn't say porpoise.
Repurposing is your purpose. You great porpoise.
That's the name of my porpoise. Repurpose the porpoise.
Yeah. If you died, you got another one. You could be reporpoise. Right.
I like it when they go re in front of words. Like that makes it a word. Revisited. And you could say, hey, that's not a word.
Later, we're going to revisit it.
You just can't make vocal sounds that sound like words out of your throat and call them a word.
That's what words are, man. Throat, vocal, noise. Man.
Oh, Lord.
So I found some, but not all, of the Documentary Now episodes. That's that mockumentary Seth Meyers. It's so SNL. Lorne Michaels is the executive producer, and they are so good. If I didn't recognize some of the most famous comedians alive right now as characters, it would seem like just a bizarre documentary.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 or 4 now. And
oh, really?
One was a musical. It was all set in the studio rehearsing for a musical. And the executive in charge, or the creative person, was played by John Mulaney, who is one of the best stand-ups at the moment. And it was just really, it felt like a real thing, and they were singing. It was the name of the musical was called The Co-op, and they were singing all these songs about what it's like to live in an apartment building in New York City, and about the landlords and what it's like to just live with your weird neighbors and stuff. But it felt like they really wrote decent songs about. It felt like it could have totally been real. It was like set in the 70s, and so that was one. And then there was another one about professional bowling, and this one was, one of the main characters was played by Michael C. Hall of Dexter fame. He was one of the
6 Feet Under.
6 Feet Under fame before, and he was one of the bowlers, and the other top of the other two of the top three competitive bowlers were also known comedians. And it was like totally reported on, like a serious thing about how in the early 90s professional bowling stopped being broadcast on TV, which like coincides with my idea. Like I was aware of professional bowling on TV back then, but then it went away, and the guy, the sports commentator, also played by a known comedian, was saying, and then Michael Jordan came along, and Tiger Woods and Charles Barkley, and the other sports just took on more importance, and we ended up having to shut down the professional bowling circuit. But then 14 years later, it came back, and they reunited all of the best of these best bowlers. I don't know. It was so serious.
Did they redo the makeup to make the earlier guys?
Oh yeah. And originally the bad boy had a mullet, and in the modern version he's got on these weird sunglasses, and he keeps whenever he gets a strike, he yells to the crowd. He says, "Suck my sack," and the announcers go through and they have this interview with the guy about how it's not. I can see how maybe you could see that was sexual, but it's not meant in that way. Anyway, but like everyone is so straight-faced and deadpan that it's just excellent. I guess the third one I saw was a performance. I think they were like almost an hour, or 45 minutes, I think. Another one I saw was a performance artist. And talk about an easy thing to make fun of these people. This was a woman, can't remember the actress's name that played her, but I don't know if it was Kate Blanchett. It might have been. But
she did Helen Mirren does the.
Yeah, Helen Mirren does the intro every time. And
every time.
On every single episode, she says,
"Oh, I didn't know that."
Welcome on the 3 that I've seen. She says, "Welcome to Documentary Now, season 52. Today we're going to talk about," and she introduces the thing. But so this was one of these Hungarian super artsy performance people that will sit in a chair in Times Square naked with a thing over her head, and that's her art. But like real freaking people do that, and it's so ridiculous that it's so easy to make fun of. And that one had Fred Armisen, the guy from Portlandia. And
now, do each of them have this Bill Hader and other?
No, they all have some famous comedian that or actors that you recognize.
But with them.
But Bill, I haven't seen one with Bill Hader in it yet. And I've only seen one with each of the famous.
Well, this isn't the stuff we talked about last.
I think it is though.
This was all how many episodes?
There's like 3 seasons.
How many?
There's 3 seasons. There's a whole bunch of episodes.
Oh, maybe what I looked at was the 3rd season, which was 6 of them, and every one of them was Bill Hader.
There are 3 seasons of 7 episodes each, and I've been mostly watching the 3rd season. But you've got your guest casts here are people like Owen Wilson and Michael Keaton and Kate Blanchett. I was right about that one. And just Tim Robinson was the bad boy in the bowling one. And it's just there's 21 of these episodes, and they're just Bill Hader is not.
And where do you access this?
I asked the internet if they could find if any episodes had fallen off the back of a truck to examine, but I don't have a known place where I can access these.
What's the name of it?
Documentary Now, with an exclamation point. It's an American mockumentary television series created by Fred Armisen, Bill Hader, Seth Meyers, and Rhys Thomas. It premiered on August 20th, 2015.
Wow.
Yeah. And on April 8th, 2019, it was renewed for a 4th season, but presumably COVID fucked with that. But yeah, it premiered on IFC, Independent Film Channel, which is an American basic cable owned by AMC. And
I recall now that I had the choice to download that connection with them when I was viewing the interviews that they had.
Yeah. So anyway,
it was very funny.
It's a fun time. It feels like you're watching a real documentary. Like they are so serious about it, but then obviously the content is hilarious. It's not like huge laughing out loud hilarious. It's like the awkward hilarity, like The Office or like British comedy, where it's just weird like that. But anyway, it was it was a fun time.
We had quite a opportunity last weekend here because for the first time since COVID, they reorganized and hosted the annual Blues Festival. And they had it at the Old Dog Bar, almost all of it outside. And they had 5 bands, including 2 national acts, and 3 local bands that I could tell you about. But 500 people came. Everybody had a place to sit. Everybody had enough to drink. Anywhere you were in this crowd of 500 in front of the outdoor bandstand or the picnic tables that had a tent over them where I sat on the edge of that, or back further where table after table had awnings and stuff. And there were 500 people, and you could order food and take a number and they'd bring it to you. That's unheard of in an outdoor venue. You got to go somewhere to get your food and then wait, which they had to. And it was just wonderful. It was just wonderful. Every act was top notch, and including Jake Kershaw, who I will send you, because you two could be brothers. You two could be brothers. I'll send you a little clip. One of his finales after he just blistered this electric guitar. Just blistered it like hardly anybody I've ever heard.
Is this the guy that you've mentioned before that looks like me?
Yes, years ago.
Yes, that's like on episode 4 or something. Yes, I recognize
way
him.
Back.
Yep.
So now he's
older than I am.
Older. And my God, did he kill it. And he says, before I leave you, one of the tunes I want to do is one that you've never heard anybody play anywhere in any venue. And he started playing Voodoo Child.
Nice.
And did as good a job on Voodoo Child as I've ever heard anybody ever do. And I got a couple little clips under a minute that I'll send you. And then after him was a national act. I want to say Bobby Wayne Brooks, I think. But his daddy is Lonnie Brooks, who was featured Chicago blues artist. And he's got a couple kids. And this is his youngest. And his other son, whose name is maybe Lonnie Jr., he, the senior to Bobby Wayne, who we saw, his older brother, is unbelievable. And so is this dude. And the mic went out on his microphone for his vocals.
Yep.
And you could still hear his guitar. He didn't miss a beat. He just sang without a microphone to the people up in the front.
Nice.
You know, the two, 3 rows of people that could hear him. And then nobody else in the place looked like he was just mouthing pantomime, but with a lot of feeling. And then when it came on, he had missed a beat. When the mic came back on, he had missed the beat.
Yeah, he was in the moment.
And they served an amber beer, Anchor. Anchor Steam, nice, full-bodied red, more amber than red. But so saw some people I hadn't seen in a long time. A couple of musicians I played. We talked to several of the guys that played to tell them how much it was appreciated and how fantastic they were. But the band that started off is the band I've talked about because Tony bought my house, Tony the sax player, all those stories.
Right.
He, for the first time in my memory, since I've been here off and on for 5 years, he was the opening act. He's never the opening act. He's in a little bit. But he had a private gig in Indiana, which somehow he roped in a national historic blues bass player because this bass player couldn't go. But he opened. And I talked with him later, and he said, yeah, we'll open. We got to go. It's the only way we can do it. If we don't leave here by 5 o'clock, we can't make our gig. Right. So first up was 3 for an hour. And setting up, sound check, voices on, and then they get introduced. These guys come out of the chute absolutely on fire with Tony, T-Bone, screaming on this saxophone, playing like it's the end of the night and this is the encore.
Right.
That's how much heart he had.
Got the energy.
And he brought the band into a crescendo of freaking music that never slowed down, never missed a beat, and people were on their feet after the first song.
All that seating, and everyone's standing up.
Played like, not everyone, but he did get a standing O when it was all over with. But the second tune, the thing is, with Tony's like, people been here for an hour. I was there an hour, got a decent seat, doors open at 2, music starts at 3. I already had a couple of beers.
A couple beers in your belt.
So I'm ready. And by the time he got to his third tune, played 2 hammering songs, his third tune, he took his linked up sax out into the crowd and ended up weaving through the crowd, playing his heart out, jumping up on an empty picnic table that was in the middle of the area and played this solo back and forth with his band.
Wow.
That was crazy. And I've got pictures of him with the blue sky behind him, wailing, his neck puffed out from blowing this horn.
Like a bullfrog.
Oh, my God. Stunning. And then weaves his way back and gets on. And all of them just sweat bombs when they were done. Played for an hour straight, no break. They're just all the way through. There's a few ballads here and there because they write some stuff. But I saw him afterwards. I said, man, I don't know when it's been. since I've seen anybody open like that. Usually people open and they say, hey, how you doing? And they do a little riff of some kind, and they start with some light smoothie blues. He said, yeah, we figured that people were ready to hear music, and we didn't have a lot of time, so we wanted to hit it.
Hey, you got to come out with your best stuff when you're short on time.
Yeah, and so that was fun. And then the second band was Crossroads Resurrected. That used to be called Crossroads Band back in the day. But the head dude, Eddie Lester, who's a saxophone singer, songwriter, musician, the best fucking cowbell player in the world, with just so funky. They come in, and they're not doing blues. They're doing Papa Daddy rock and roll and funk.
Papa Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just so different. And one of Eddie's best, if not his best, is he does a rendition of Ain't No Sunshine, and does it.
That song is so fucking good.
Anybody I've ever heard it, and has this miniature cowbell in his hand that has a rubber hard piece to it in the bottom of it, and then a small cowbell at the top of it, and he uses a drumstick. He plays the shit out of that thing. Nobody I've ever heard.
Wow.
And just as when you have heard the Jew's harp in a tune, you recognize it, then you hear it in other songs. It's the same way. It's the same way with him.
That is such a great song. That's such a simple song too. If you look at the lyrics and the I learned to play it one day on the guitar, but didn't practice it enough to remember it. But it's awfully simple. But just that original recording where it's just, and I know.
Yeah.
That it's so emotional.
At the time, it was a record. And it was a record that was to be broken, and it was broken quite a bit. There's a whole thing about it, so you could check that out maybe. But guys doing it and holding the note.
Right, that's really great. So that reminds me, that song, my computer played that song for me the other day, but it was because there's this amazing podcast that I think I've mentioned here, but it's called Strong Songs, where this total music nerd goes and dissects famous pop songs and goes into why this is particularly, like, what the artist has done here and how these chords resolve and how this thing comes over here on the side that makes it really interesting. And it's just an amazing podcast that I highly recommend. Link in the show notes. And he did one on Carole King's. He mentioned, like, the whole Tapestry album is just, like, it seems like a greatest hits album, but it's just so good. But the song that he focused on is "You've Got a Friend."
Yeah.
And it's got that great winter, spring, summer, fall. Like, what a great phrase there to go through all the seasons. But he talked about how she recorded this with James Taylor, who, like, released that song that she wrote slightly before she did, and Joni Mitchell. We're just, like, all hanging out in California and just getting high and making music. And what just an amazing place and moment that was in time. And so anyway, I told my computer to play Tapestry a couple times. Just amazing.
Did you see her ceremony? Obama gave her the...
I did not, no.
The Medal of Performance Arts at the White House, and the crowd that was there, including, of course, the White House.
Right. Staff.
President, Michelle, everyone, just dancing to what she was doing. Just crowd pleasing, unbelievable, fun, loose.
And apparently before she released that, she had been writing songs for, like, tons of famous songs that we know from other artists. She wrote, but
didn't she write the tunes that Neil Sindak sang?
I don't know about Neil Sindak, but she wrote some Aretha Franklin songs, and just some. Anyway, it was super interesting. But I thought about that because when Apple Music finishes an album that you told it to play, it, like, plays similar stuff, and Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone came on after that. But what an amazing time and place that was. And that song is so simple and so
straightforward.
When you feel sad, know that I'm here for you. And that's why it resonated, and it's been covered by so many people. But anyway, that was a thing that I experienced recently.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm certainly enjoying music again.
It's so nice that you can go out to see live music. It's nothing is like, things are always so much more enjoyable when you've been without it for a long time. Whether it be
the Delta variant is raging, so it may be short-lived.
Yeah, but
and with flu season coming up, it's going to get rough again. It's the South is bad too, and people are traveling. So anyway, not to pour cold water on the beauty of the open air music. And when old friends who played music together, and I consider these guys, I'm not as old a friends as they are with each other, but I've known them for years now. And just the sheer joy that we get out of making music that we and other people appreciate, it's in the now enjoyment that's hard to replicate. The adrenaline.
Yeah, we were talking about this, I think, last episode, how you just get into that flow state and it's just magic, and you can't remember when your mortgage is due or whatever. Right. It's just...
And the thing is, you just don't want it to end.
Sure.
We played some... back in the day when I was working in the... doing my job, we'd have these conferences we'd go to, and I would corral this guy who was head of Homeland Security for the National Governors Association. His name was Tom, I think. And he could play a cowboy guitar. And he was real handsome, and he had a really good voice. And he played a lot of tunes, Dylan tunes, and some Beatles tunes, and some things. He didn't carry a songbook, but he knew a lot of stuff. He was very affable. And then discovered that the head of the chief scientist for the Federal Bureau of Justice Services had a hell of a singing voice and played guitar. And then us getting together after these conferences in these little bars, and everybody had their instrument, and we just went on until the bars closed, and we were always the last people in the room. We were still playing, whether anybody was...
You're playing for yourself, right? It's not... You don't need an audience.
It was about the music. It was nice to be able for other people to enjoy it.
But even if there aren't other people, right. Not unlike this podcast, but whatever.
Mercy.
So, Dennis, we have some homework that we forgot.
Uh-oh.
We've mentioned it over email, but before my family came back, I managed to watch Gangs of New York.
Oh.
And for the first time, I had never seen it. All I knew was that it had Leo DiCaprio in it, and it was very orange. And both of those, the texture, the lighting, and it is very orange. There's a lot of torch light. I don't know. The color of the whole movie, I don't know. Some movies, they will tint something blue, and you can, once you're in it, you forget that everything is tinted blue, but I don't know. This one's tinted orange.
Uh-huh.
But
so what'd you think?
Daniel Day-Lewis is just unbelievable.
Have you ever?
They say that he's famous for being what they call a method actor, where he
stays in character,
and if he's playing a villain, you do not want to say, hey, do you want to go get a beer after shooting? It's that he just, in a way that it feels like that must be the most difficult way to be an actor, but also if it clearly works for him.
Sure works.
Ideally, you would be the kind of person that maybe you're British, and as soon as they yell action, like you switch to whatever accent you need to have, and you can convert into that character. But apparently he doesn't or can't.
It's too hard to get in and out of it. I think it's easier to stay in it. I'll tell you the scene where he's talking and takes a big steak, sizzles it on two sides, and starts cutting it with this huge Bowie knife, pretty much raw.
Yeah.
And while he's talking, in between bites, he says something that causes him to tap the very tip of the knife on his glass eyeball.
Yeah.
And he taps it so hard and so clearly and so effortlessly, you just know this, oh my God, where is this going? It was just, I've seen it so many times. I can't take my eyes off it.
That particular effect, I'm curious how they managed to make it seem like he has a glass eyeball.
They put a plate over his eye for a moment.
Okay. But I did a little bit of research. It's unclear just something like how historically accurate this movie is. Clearly, there were riots, and there were many people killed, but like in the dozens, not thousands or anything.
This was never, the opening credit didn't say based on a true story.
True. And when they started, they're all in their period costumes, and clearly they're in a period where guns exist, but they just have this all-out free-for-all with no guns involved at the beginning, and it looks a little bit weird. But then they start, like, the music score is like 90s rock. They go very they're not trying to be the most accurate historical depiction. They're making an entertaining movie loosely set in the time period. But,
well, it's because it's a time piece. It shouldn't be judged more harshly than any novel that makes up stuff out of sheer cloth and creates a reality.
Novels, sure. Movies that are based on a true story are one thing. This was set vaguely in a time period where, yes, there were some riots, and that's about as close to, I think, reality as they came. But it certainly lived up to its title. And
I've never seen a man eat scenery like freaking Daniel Day-Lewis in that character.
Yeah,
every second he was on the screen,
you couldn't look away.
Riveting.
And as you said, Leo wasn't too bad.
He played the second fiddle. He was the central character as much as the butcher.
And I was unsure. It wasn't all that predictable. I wasn't sure what was going to happen at the end, and I wasn't sure who would kill whom, and if his knife throwing practice would work. And
the scene, the knife cutting scene in the smoke,
yes,
where the butcher was not seen and running by him and slicing,
yes,
was just fucking
real.
Frightening.
Yes,
frightening.
I can imagine it in the theater. That must have been just horrifying. And Cameron Diaz was at her peak cuteness, that red hair.
And you saw, of course, the boy from the You Got the Job kid. He was one of the main characters in the show.
Was he?
Yeah.
Elliot from E.T.?
Yeah. I sent it. That's why I sent you Gangs of New York, because I realized that was him.
No, those are...
No.
I'm looking this up to verify, but we were talking about Gangs of New York before we did that. We had that E.T. talk.
Oh.
So nice try.
Okay. But maybe it happened during the space when the homework was given and the
Henry Thomas is his name. And wow, he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Plays a dude who gets killed on the gate, man.
No way.
Friend of the Rabbit.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. Yeah, I see. Wow. Man, we are just weaving narratives, and scholars are going to look back at these episodes and be like, they were planning this the whole time.
What were these guys talking about?
That's wild. Of course, he played a pretty good character too. He was the spineless friend that
yes
you can't trust, but is ultimately repentant for betraying you. Yeah, that was a good movie. I'm glad that I spent the $3 or whatever it is I spent to rent that.
I have news to report, and that is that I'm leaving here for a Father's Day celebration.
Is it Father's Day?
Because we missed Father's Day back in June.
Okay.
Indeed. And I can't be late for that, so this is going to be one of those snuck up on us. The hour's over already. Wow.
I was so happy.
It felt like we were just getting started, man.
I know, like, I've got 17 more topics. All right, say hi to your lovely offspring.
Yes. All right, next week.
Tell them your podcast buddy says hi. Alright, that's it for episode number 124. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/124, where we link to the things we talked about. And if you'd like to help support the show, you can go to patreon.com/happyhour. We would love to hear from you guys there. And you can buy us around, which we desperately need. We'll see you next week.